All right, so I'm gonna go over a couple of things for the Weaver 205. First of all, I'm gonna start with the servo motor. This is a switch that goes forward and reverse on the servo. So to make sure this is in this position for the 205, if it's up or down, this will rotate the pulley one direction, and there's three different settings. The middle is neutral, where it won't work. This position is where it will rotate so that the flywheel will spin the right way, and you want it always coming towards you and spinning this direction. Going over some of the other settings, if you need to adjust anything as far as the foot lift, if you move it up and down, this bar, if you loosen this and loosen this one over here, this whole stand will move up and down. But if you do that, make sure that you adjust this foot pedal here to make sure that you have the right size, or set at the right spot, so that when you push down, that it will actually engage the motor. Talking about a couple different features of the machine. So this knob here is the back stitch lever. So in the down position as it is now, it means the machine is going to go forward. When you push it up is when it's going to go backwards, and I'll show you that as we're going along here. So stitch length is another thing that's also integrated into this knob. So if you turn this in, you'll notice that it's going to go tighter. It won't allow you to push down further, and it won't go up as high. So that is your stitch length. The further in you turn it, the shorter your stitch length is going to be, and the further out you turn it, the longer your stitch length is going to be. And if you look here closely, there's a little bar here in the middle where it is just going to be in neutral. So we'll go over threading the machine now. As far as the thread stand itself, it's made to hold 2 spools. You go up through, this one is for the bobbin. That comes down, goes through this loop here, underneath the tension discs, over and into the back one. So load your bobbin in here. There's a hole in here that you can see. If you look right there, you can see that is where the hole of the bobbin is actually supposed to go into and hold it into place. And you push this thing forward, and it will ride on the belt itself to wind the bobbin. And as far as threading the machine for this side, you go from here down to the first post here, over, come around to the back, over, and then you'll go through this guy, and then up. Make sure you go in between these tension discs, and then down through here, down to here, and then come down here. And I'm actually gonna loosen this one and kind of show you how this actually works. So when you're doing this, you're gonna want to go in and go in the middle of the discs, or I shouldn't say, there's not really any disc there, but you're gonna want to go around one full time, and then around again, and then behind the knob. Once you have it wrapped around here, come up through this check spring. This check spring goes up and down. Make sure that you go through the take-up arm. There's a little slot on here that it will actually, when the take-up arm comes down, and you can do this by turning the flywheel itself, do that by exposing this. When the take-up arm comes through here, you'll see that you can actually feed it through there. From there, go through this, come down at the top of the bottom of the needle bar, there's a spot where there's a hole that it can go through, and then come down and then go through the needle left to right. I don't know if you can see that properly or not, but the other thing that is also crucial if you do change your needle is to make sure that this scarf of the needle is actually on this side pointing that way. That is crucial when it comes to actually picking up the thread, because as the shuttle rotates, it comes in between here and actually picks up the loop there. As for loading this bobbin here, there's a little thing on this side, little pincher thing, or I don't know what to call it. There's a pin basically that clips in to hold this bobbin case in here. So you have to push that out and the bobbin will come out. Once the bobbin is out, you can, what this will do, it'll actually let you access the feed dog. What I mean by the feed dog is this. If you take this plate off, I don't have this thing fastened, but I'll fasten it before I start to sew. This is your feed dog. There's one screw in here holding this thing in here. If it ever needs to be replaced, you can do that. You'll have to loosen the bobbin and access it from here, but a flathead screwdriver will be able to let you do that. And then as far as putting your bobbin back in again, so take this, push your bobbin in, and then make sure that you pull your thread through here. And you can do that by just giving yourself a little bit extra string here. If you ever need to tighten the tension of your bobbin, and this is supposed to have a little bit of tension, so how this works is this tension plate actually pushes against the bobbin case, and what it does is it forces it to put pressure on here. So with that being said, excuse me, let's see if I can do this. So there's two screws on here. The one is attached on the inside of the bobbin case, and the other is attached on the tension plate itself, so it actually holds it on there. The inside the bobbin case is actually a set screw to hold the setting of the one that's on the bobbin case. What it does, you'll have to, if you want to tighten or loosen this, you'll have to loosen the inside one and then tighten or loosen the one on the bobbin case. And you can test that by actually seeing how easy it pulls or how hard it pulls. Once you have this set, then you retighten this set screw up again, and then you'll have it set. So I'm gonna show you how to do some of these things here. As far as take a look at some of the shuttle parts and some of those things. So first thing I'm going to point out is this Allen head screw right here. So if you ever take this portion out to add distance rings, and I'll show you what those look like, as far as if the needle isn't close enough, as far as the shuttle hook isn't close enough to the scarf of the needle here, important thing is turn this set screw in before you take this off. This is absolutely crucial. Turn this in, and I'll show you what that looks like. So it holds the internal parts in here from springing out. There's 4 little springs in each of the corners in here that you can, once you tighten this, it'll hold everything in place so that you can take this out and you don't have everything just spring back towards you. So I'm going to do that and then loosen these two and show you what that looks like. In the meantime, the other thing is, if you do ever change a needle size, it is crucial to change this part here. These 2 screws, and keep in mind how this is put in here. So if you loosen these two screws, let me do this. I'm gonna tighten this one and I'm just gonna play it out. Turn this in until it goes against. Then from there, I'll show you what these look like. So these have shims in there. Now these should have a number on them, which these don't. But you'll have a little pack of shims like this. They look like little kidney beans. What those do is they space your hook here onto your shuttle. They put distance in here. So once that's off, we'll reinstall those once we get back in here. Continue to take this out. And that will allow this entire thing to come out. Now, the main thing is to make sure you don't damage this tip here, just because it's very crucial. Like I was saying, this is what actually picks up your thread. So you should have little distance rings with your packet. So these are, I believe you get 2 of them with your packet. What these do is they actually set on the inside around here. So what that does is it moves everything here to the left, like towards the outside. So depending on, as parts get worn and stuff like that, if it's not exactly doing that, take a look at your shuttle hook and how close it is to the needle. And in order to do that, you may need to take this feed dog off in order to see your distance left to right. So that is how that is achieved. The other thing that I'm going to talk about was these shims here, the little kidney bean things that I was talking about. These have numbers on them, and you only need one corresponding with your needle size. So for example, 2.5 would be the same as a 250 needle. 2.3 is the same as a 230. 1.6 is the same as a 160 needle. So that is what those are, and those are on the same, be the same as this here. So that being said, I'm going to put everything back together, and you can kind of watch how that goes. Grab your shuttle. There's really only one way that this goes in here. Whoops. Once you have this, put your screws in here. And if you need to put the distance rings in, they would already be in here if that was the case. So if you don't tighten this screw down, you'll have some springs and stuff flying out at you that you don't want. So tighten these down. put this thing back on here. And this is called the needle deflector. So what this does, it holds your needle in from pushing too far one way or the next. And it's very critical to make sure that you have your needle spacing right so that it doesn't deflect it too hard, or it basically just keeps your needle aligned from pushing so hard. You don't necessarily need to tighten these down super hard. The main thing I will say is to make sure that they're even as far as tighten. So do one side a little bit, the other side a little bit, and then go back and forth until it's properly aligned here. So once that is done, make sure we go back and loosen this screw here, just so that everything flows, because if you run it with this thing tight, it won't work properly. So that's just another thing to watch out for. As far as this goes here, you probably need to use either a flathead or something to put it in here. Push this spring back so that you can pop this open. When it comes time to actually pick up your thread, you can do that. Make sure it doesn't wrap around there. Make sure you give yourself plenty of room here. I don't have the plate on here, but the concept is still the same. So press on your foot lift, and actually if you can see this or not, but if you press on, this is your foot lift, which actually attaches to the chain back here right there. And what that does is when you push down on this foot lift, it will pull this mechanism down. The other thing is that this actually moves up, and if you look closely at when you move this thing up, it should push this post in, separating these two tension discs. So if you look now, these are tight. If you push this up, you'll notice that these are now loose. So the same concept applies. If you push your foot pedal down, it should actually release this lever. So I'm pushing the foot pedal down, it should release that and also lift the foot. So if you lift the foot like that, and I'll show you how to pick up the thread. So if you have it through the needle here, pull it on the inside, and then turn the flywheel by hand. It should go around, pick up that thread, continue turning, give it a little tug here, and it should pull it right up through. So lift your foot, make sure that your thread is in the center here, and then you're ready to stitch. The other thing I want to talk about is tension. So as you remember, we tighten and loosen the tension in the bobbin. The other main tension knob is this knob here. So loose means tension is going to be looser on top, and tighten, obviously, what that does, it just applies pressure in your springs here, so that it pulls tighter tension. The other thing along up here is this knob. So this knob here is where the foot bar goes through. So if you actually push on the foot pedal, this is going to travel up and down, but there's a knob here that you can actually turn. What that does is there's a long spring on the inside here that sits basically on the inside. It actually fits over this thing here, and is pushed down by this. So it's held in place by this thing here. What that does, it applies pressure on your foot pedal. So in example, if you want less pressure, you loosen this, and that is controlled. It controls how much pressure is putting down here. The other thing is this guide here. You'll have to loosen this, and then it will slide in and out and it will help you as you go through. Or sewing, you can set whatever you have up to this thing, and it will actually slide right along as your product. And I'll show you that on when we do some sewing here. The other thing I'm going to talk about quickly here is oiling. So every one of these red ports here, we pre-oil them before we send them out. But every one of those red ports throughout the machine is places that you need to oil periodically, and that's just a drop or two of oil. It probably wouldn't hurt. This spot here, everywhere you can see like a wick, it's always good to keep a little bit of oil in there, just a squirt or two. And as we go around this machine, you'll notice a couple of those red spots that you have periodically. It's always good to keep those lubricated and keep it well oiled. And that's 3-in-1 oil or like a Lily stitching oil. The other thing I will say is if you have the machine turned on, if you apply just a slight amount of pressure on here before the machine actually turns over, it will actually allow you to turn your flywheel pretty easily. There's a breaking point of where it engages the flywheel and where it actually engages the motor. So if you find that fine line, it'll actually help you with your hand wheel and your hand operation a lot better. It'll make this a lot easier so that you can move it. Let's get to sewing and I'll show you what that looks like. One of the other cool tricks is if you have thread or if you want to change thread, I just tied a knot in here, and I don't know if you can see that or not, but I just tied a knot in there. So I want to, this thing was not threaded properly, or not, it was threaded, but I am going to push the foot lift here. So I'm going to push the foot lift down. I have it fully compressed. Then I'm going to grab this, pull it through. Oh, I thought I was going to pull it through. I'm going to get the knot through the first little hole there, but then it should come pretty easily. And all you do is just pull your thread through and watch as that knot comes through everywhere. And actually it went through the top of the needle bar there. So all I have to do from here is just thread it through the needle. Another key thing is it's going to help you with setup here is use both feet to help you kind of get where you need to go as far as that goes. So once you use the machine, it'll get a lot better, but as far as a whole, you pretty much want to keep your right foot on the foot, and you can kind of use your left foot as the guide. So once you have that, give yourself extra thread, just mainly to hold on to for the first couple of stitches. Once you're ready to go, keep a little tension. I have a little bit of tension on here just to keep those first two stitches in line. And then sometimes if the belt is not tight enough, it needs a little help getting started on the first two. And just kind of feather it in there. If you want to tie your first couple of stitches in, you move the flywheel here, or not the flywheel, but the handle, move it up, and then I'll back stitch. So let's say typically 3 is in, locked in, and then move it back down to go forward again. Once you have that established, go down. And then when you want to make a turn, make sure your needle is at its lowest position. So that when you push on your foot pedal to lift your foot, raise the pedal, then you can turn it however you need to, and then continue from there. So make sure it's down, and that's so that you can get that corner stitch in there, and then it actually loops in there. When you want to go to take it out, make sure that your needle is at its highest, and you can see that by where this spring is. So you want to make sure your take-up arm is all the way up, as far as, I don't know if you can see this or not, but make sure that this spring here, you can't see it, there we go. Make sure this spring is at its highest point, or like starting to go upwards. Then you'll know that your needle is at the highest spot and ready to be taken out. When you're ready, step on the pedal, and you should be able to pull your thread out. Like I said, make sure that you always give yourself extra thread. And as you'll notice, it locked in the stitch here. It actually skipped a stitch here, which it's not supposed to do, but you get the idea of what you need to do to operate it. I will say, if you do change your needle here, there's one screw holding the needle in. That's a flat-headed screwdriver. You should have gotten a flathead screwdriver with your machine. So the crucial thing is to make sure that your needle is in the right spot as far as turn directly, and that is the scarf of the needle pointed inwards, like that way on the machine, and that it's all the way up as far as it can go. And there is a spot on here that you can tell, I don't know if you can see on the video. Yeah, there, actually you can see. So make sure that it is all the way up. There's actually a screw on this end too. Some of them have 2 screws, others don't. But make sure that your needle is all the way up as far as it can go, and turn the right way. In order to achieve that, sometimes you need to use little needle nose pliers and just kind of ream it out in there with the needle nose, and a needle in there, maybe an old needle or something like that, if it doesn't want to go all the way up. Because that is actually crucial when it comes to threading your needle, or not threading your needle, but putting your needle in and making sure that it sews properly.